Aloha and welcome to Light Diamond Creative Podcast Season 2. In this season, we are talking about, at large, the awakening audiobiography of yours truly, in hopes that these stories I'm sharing will serve you through your own awakening process. Today, in episode 10, we are talking about near-death experiences. Whoa, yeah, we're going there. If you've been listening, you know it's been intense up in here. We've had some pretty heavy episodes. This is part of the awakening experience. What can I say? It's not all sunshine and rainbows, people. Sometimes it's the thunderstorm. Sometimes it's the natural disaster, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're going there. Near-death experiences. Let's talk for a second about why near-death experiences can be and are a part of the awakening process. And feel free to comment and share your own near-death experiences below the video, but when one experiences a near-death experience, it is awakening because we realize the potential of reality shifting forever as we know it, and we get closer to crossing that line between life and death, raising our general awareness and even appreciation for life itself. To know that we are not immortal. I mean, in a way we are, but we do not experience this skin suit forever. I would say that the soul, in my perspective, the spirit is immortal. Once it's born, it is forever. But maybe even on a grand scale, it too dies. It's hard to say. However, what I do know is that my own near-death experiences had an important role in my personal awakening process. If you've been listening, you know we've shared some Ben stories, and if you are not caught up, I'd recommend going back to the beginning because this is a chronological process. To catch you up, Ben played an incredible role in my awakening journey. Going through his life and death, what we did together, it was a God slap. A God slap to redirect me. And through the process of evaluating our time together, the time of Ben and I, have learned so much, and I've taken so many of these lessons forward with me that I have benefited from and hope to share with you through these tellings. When Ben was alive, near-death experience number 1. When Ben was alive, I've mentioned before that he had many addictions to things that seem a little softer, like caffeine and tobacco, nicotine, alcohol. And in one of the previous episodes, we also learned his other addictions that were not known to me until much later, closer to his death. Addiction to heroin. When Ben died, I reflected on our time together a lot, and I recalled that in life, he had offered me a few different things. I feel him interjecting, like his spirit is here, like wisdom. Yes, you did offer me wisdom, Ben. And he also had offered me a drug. Now, I will disclose that I have been diagnosed for PTSD and for lower back pain. And so I have used medical cannabis a time or two. All right. Although I have not always been familiar with it like I am now. And so Ben and I would partake, and there was nothing wrong with that. However, what I recalled after his death is that there were times in life where he offered me something that looked really weird. And he told me that it was cannabis. But it looked so weird. I would watch him, we would be out on the porch together, and he would have a piece of foil, a lighter, and a straw. And this drug, which he told me was cannabis, concentrated, would be like a little tiny block on the foil. And he would light the underside of the foil and suck the smoke through a straw and inhale. He offered it to me saying it was THC, but I remember, and there must have been a guardian angel in my ear saying no. I remember it freaking me out the way it looked. Really huge turnoff. You know, I'm a biologist, conservationist, natural type of gal. And it looked so ugly to me to see the foil and the fire and the straw. I mean, listen, biologists who practice conservation do not like straws. Okay. They're so lame. But that's a side note. That's a different episode. So I was super turned off, and I told him no. And like I said, there must have been a guardian angel in my ear who said, no, do not do that. But I would watch him do it. I would be around and witness him doing it occasionally, and I just kind of, took his word and thought it was THC, but having a feeling like there's no way I'm going to do that. No way. I was so naive. To drugs. And when I left Ben on January 25th, 2017, 1 week before he died, I decided to look up what smoking heroin looks like. If you're caught up, you're caught up. And you know that Ben overdosed on New Year's from heroin. And in that following month, I could have looked up what smoking heroin looks like, but I was so hoping that Ben would set himself straight. And I was so hoping that what we were doing would get him healthy that I denied completely that he had offered any to me before. It was only when I left and had enough physical distance between us in that final week of his life, I went to a friend's to talk about what was going on. And with her, I looked up what smoking heroin looks like, and guess what came up? Foil, lighter, straw. And it was in that moment I realized Ben had offered me heroin. Not just one time. That blew me away because I loved him and I thought he loved me. Little did I know in that moment of saying no to him that I was having a near-death experience. Because listen, honey, heroin is a near-death experience. And most of the time, it will be a death experience. And if I had said yes, I surely would have become addicted. And I surely would have died. Looking at that screen of my phone to see that what he had offered me and what he had been doing was heroin, I felt so betrayed. I could not believe that someone who I had loved the way that I did and who said he loved me would offer me something like that. And I realized later that someone who is in an addictive pattern with a substance like heroin is so addicted that it is easier to bring people down with them than it is to get out themselves. And if someone is brought down with them, it reinforces their own behavior and addiction so that they don't have to look at themselves honestly. This added a whole dynamic to the grieving process. And I ignored it for a while. I didn't want to think about the fact that he had offered me heroin without me knowing, taking advantage of how naive I was to try to bring me down to that place of addiction he was in to justify the way he was to himself. That was heartbreaking. That was one of the near-death experiences I had. And what that taught me, first of all, I need to follow my intuition. And when I get a bad feeling about something, I will not deny it. What I also learned is what I shared with you about people who are addicted. Although they may love you and although you may love them, that doesn't mean that they won't try to bring you into their habits. And that's one of the reasons that addiction and heroin are so dangerous, especially if someone is naive about what they are getting into. Because at any point, I could have said yes. And thank goodness I did not, because if I did, I would not be here today. Moving on to the next death experience, one of them. So this was in 2018. So I was about a year and a half out from his death. And there had been a time where I thought I would never be with anybody again. You know, Ben and I had talked about getting married, and I felt really loyal to him. It was actually his mom who told me that, you know, there are many seasons to life. Maybe you won't always feel this way. But I did feel loyal to him for a long time until finally processing, like, you know, he's never coming back. I want to love again. And maybe what we had experienced together wasn't the love that I thought it was, because someone who truly loves would not want to harm another. And he did offer me that heroin, like I had said. And I later discovered, too, that there had been some codependency and maybe even emotionally abusive instances in our time together. So all of that together helped me to move on and try to be with someone else, try to experience love again. So about a year and a half in, and here we are, me and my BF. I'm smiling because it's just like, wow, I cannot believe this happened. But apparently it needed to, so that I could learn some lessons. These near-death experiences will do that. He and I are at a festival. And we decide to partake in some synthetic hallucinogens. And I remember that evening, you know, I still felt angry. I still felt betrayed. I still wasn't right. I was still depressed. And I remember after we took it, and it was too much. We took too much. That's a problem. Dose. We took too much. Twice as much as we should have taken. And I remember it hadn't hit yet. And I was listening to this music, a live performer playing guitar, an original song, sang some lyric about being tested. And I was in my ego. I'm not going to lie. I definitely was in my ego. I thought, bring it on. I didn't care enough about my life at that point to not rise to a challenge such as what was being presented. Bring it on. I can take it. Yeah, I was feeling very egoic and full of pride in that moment. And guess what happened? It did get brought on, and I did not win. My victory was surviving to the next day, okay? I'm going to tell you this tidbit. It's haunting, so prepare yourself. Ugh. The sun started to set, and my boyfriend and I, we hopped onto a cart. They were taking these carts up and down the mountain. This freaking festival. And they had these carts driving up and down the mountain to bring people from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain next to the ravine to the different aspects of the festival. And so the sun is setting and he and I hop on this cart. I get front and I am starting to feel pretty altered. And we travel down the mountain. We ride the cart, and the driver says, "Would you like to go all the way?" And there was something in that sentence that rang almost foreboding. But I said, "Yes, take us all the way to the end." Our campsite was down there, but no, take us all the way to the ends of the earth. And so he and I ride down this cart, and they're bringing us along this dirt road, along the ravine, past our tent. It's getting darker. And we see these lights up ahead, these strings of Christmas lights, the multicolored ones that are kind of oriented around some tables. They almost look like constellations. It's very alluring. It was beautiful. And so we go all the way to the end. And as we get closer to where these lights are, we pass tables of people with their arms out and needles. We had been taken to the part of the festival where people were shooting up together at the end of the road. And the cart stops. I don't know what to do. If you've been listening, you know that I had just experienced heroin-related trauma. And so I began to get triggered, and I also felt lost. I was so shocked. I had never seen anything like that before, and it scared me. I looked back at my boyfriend. He said, "No, I cannot go down that road again." Apparently, he had been before, which never got discussed. And we did break up. Not at this night, though. We had to freaking make it through the night. And luckily, he grounded me because I was just in the flow of energy and I was starting to be in an altered state. I would have done whatever I was guided to do. Although I felt afraid, I just felt so confused and shocked by what I was seeing. It was almost like it wasn't even real. I could not believe that we had just been taken by a cart to a section of a festival where people were shooting up heroin, arms out on picnic tables under these bright lights. And so we do not get off the cart. And we continue back to our tent. Because we're utterly freaked out at this point. And then we start tripping ourselves because we had taken too much of this freaking synthetic hallucinogen. Oh my gosh, this night was awful. It was a nightmare. And it started by the triggering of, well, it started because we took it in the first place and we shouldn't have. But then, continued right off the bat with this BS of all these people. It was just so sad. And these carts, they went back and forth all night long. We tried to go to sleep. We tried to be in the tent, and we could just hear the carts zooming back and forth from the top of the mountain to the end of the road at the bottom of the mountain and back up the mountain. And it was incessant. All night long, people were going back and forth to and from this space. It was very disturbing. And then I felt so out of my skin that I asked him, I was like, do you want to just go put our feet in the water? Our tent was right next to the water. And then we get to the water and I visualize myself getting caught up in the river and floating away and never coming back. I was like, great, well, I'm not getting all the way in, that's for sure. Had my feet in. I had my hands going to the water and bringing it over my arms to try to soothe myself, anything to soothe myself. It was so anxiety ridden. He was trying to soothe himself. He was trying to soothe me. We're trying to soothe each other here. And by the way, it was a full moon, and the full moon was rising over the trees. Midnight strikes. This is not an exaggeration. This is real life, people. Midnight strikes, and something shifts in the energy of the festival. Under this full moon, past the stroke of midnight, from the area where we had passed with all of what seemed like kids shooting up, there was this drumming, almost like a heartbeat, coming from that area of the woods. I had gotten these tickets for my boyfriend for his birthday. I could not believe we were like this. I cannot believe this is what happened, but this is what happened. As we sat by the water trying to soothe ourselves out of this trip, the drumming intensely beats from that section of the forest, and we both turn our heads to see that people were walking down the mountain in a single file line, and people were walking from that other section of the forest, the end of the road, single file line. And as we watched, we saw that these people were lit in neon lights. They had them wrapped around their hands, their arms, their legs. They had neon reflective paint. Some of them had costumes. One of the first ones I saw was someone wearing goat horns. So we watch, and these people filing down the mountain, all lit up together, these people filing from the end of the road, and these people were about to cross paths. It was so haunting that I felt like I didn't want them to see us at all. I didn't want them to see us at all. And so my boyfriend and I almost gave his name, whoops. My boyfriend and I turned our heads from them to the water, our backs to them, and we just held each other, waiting for it to be over. And finally, the people had left, and it was over. But I will never forget that. I will never forget how haunting that was, that whole experience itself. And I didn't sleep a wink. I think he maybe got a couple winks, but I could not sleep a wink. And there was a couple crucial points in this experience, one of which when I knew we needed water, but I could barely get myself to it. And it took all of my focus and strength to get out of the tent and get to the back of his car and get the trunk open and find the water so that we could have a drink and bring us down to earth. There was also a moment where I had a journal. I was writing a lot, and I still do, but I was starting to write a lot in this time of my life, and I almost began to write my ending. Yeah, that's a trip. And when I realized that, I threw the journal from me. I'm not going to write it all. No. This is not ending this way. My life is not ending this way. It was a trip in my mind to think that if I died tonight, I would be carried out of this place and they would have to find who I'm related to tell them that I died at a festival. And I just could not let that happen. I could not let my family experience my death. I could not do that. I had to survive. I was determined to survive. And I prayed to Spirit to help me live until the morning. Help me see the sunrise. Help me last and get through this. And I will never do this again. I will turn things around. I will create a better life than this. Please let me live. And sure enough, by the grace of God, I lived through the night and I got to see the sunrise. And it had never been so beautiful. I'd never been so thankful to watch the sun come up. And nature had a renewed beauty as well. And we got our asses out of there. And he wanted to stop and get some freaking Waffle House on the way home. I was like, no, I need to be in my bed, sir. We're not stopping at Waffle House. And so we went, and I got in bed, I slept, and I was like, I will never do that again. Happy birthday, boyfriend. Sorry it sucked. I tried. Yeah, that was a near-death experience. And just wait, there's more. 2 more. On my way to read poetry for the first time, and keep in mind the emotional context of all of this is depression and grief. Dark night of my soul, clearly. I was on my way to an art gallery to read poetry for the first time. I had just decided to not partake in any drugs anymore. Obviously, it was not serving me. And so I get in the car, I grab my poetry books. I'd never read before. I was feeling nervous, but I really wanted to turn things around. And so I get in the car and I'm headed down the road. As I'm driving down the interstate, someone comes out of nowhere. I'm switching lanes. Turn on my signal, moving from the rightmost lane to a middle lane, and this person zooms up behind me. They didn't have their headlights on. I didn't see them at all, and they were moving so fast that as I moved into the middle lane, their car hit the back of my car. My car began to turn. Their car had turned from impact, and I remember seeing the outline of their body as the front of their car barely missed my side, driver's side, and hit the back of my car again to give me a 180, and their course corrected, so they kept driving. Meanwhile, I'm flying backwards down the interstate at 75 miles per hour, looking at oncoming traffic. Here is the extraordinary part of this near-death experience, which is that in the moment of realizing that I could die from this wreck, everything changed into slow motion. I was able to be aware of multiple dimensions at the same time. Time itself slowed to a standstill. And I remembered everything I've learned in life up to this point about how in car accidents, for people to survive, most of the time they need to relax. They need to not manipulate the maneuvers of the car. They need to relax and breathe and go with whatever is about to happen. And so, in this moment of stillness, watching oncoming traffic face me, all of those hundreds of cars, and I'm flying backwards, I commanded my body to relax and breathe and hold on to the steering wheel from 10 to 2. You know what I'm saying? Left hand on 10, right hand on 2, guiding the car straight and not correcting it, because that could have made it flip. And I flew backwards, not knowing where I was going for probably, I don't even know, what was it, 5, 6, 7 seconds. And the median of the interstate catches me, and the car rides up on it until finally it comes to a halt. And by some miracle, I am uninjured. I am stunned, though, and I just sit there. The other car, like I said, they had corrected from hitting me the second time into going straight, and so they just kept on driving. It was just me on the side of the road. And someone pulls over. Angels pull over and call the police and call the EMS and a tow truck. And they ask me if I'm all right. The EMS gets there and they're like, "Are you sure you're okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, by some freaking miracle." The cops are asking me what happened and all, and how are you feeling? I'm like, "I'm freaking alive. I'm alive right now. It's a miracle." I couldn't believe it. And those people who had pulled over, I call them angels. They were so nice. Not only did they pull over to help me, not knowing how the accident had fully turned out, not knowing that I was physically okay, they offered me a ride back to where I had come from, this apartment that my brother and I had moved into. They asked if anyone was around to get me, but no one was. Everyone was out of town. And so they drove me all the way back to where I was living with the stuff I had collected from my back seat. Those are angels. That was eye-opening. And I didn't have car insurance at the time. Yep, it was a whole mess. And what I learned from that near-death experience is that it is important to be a really good driver. And even sometimes being a good driver doesn't mean accidents won't happen. What it also taught me is that it's a really good thing I had quit smoking, because that could have influenced the way that wreck went down. No smoking and driving. And finally, from that occasion, I learned that there are really amazing people who will help in important situations. And I really needed them, and they showed up for me, and I don't even remember their names. I don't think they'd remember mine either, but all of us remember that wreck. My car was totaled. And finally, this last death experience that I will share with you all today, near death, is a little bit more mystical. I had been suffering from the depression and the grief, and these neural pathways in my brain were like a rat race, like a hamster wheel. Just kept going over them. I couldn't feel better. I couldn't think better. I didn't know what was going on. I was paranoid. And I remember waking up one morning and my first thought being, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live. I'm ready to go. As soon as those thoughts occurred upon my wake, I felt my spirit come out of my body like a mist being pulled out of the skin. I saw myself lying in bed from a short distance away as my spirit continued to exit. And I thought, no. The first person I thought of was my brother. There's no way that I could do this to my brother. I knew what it was like to experience the death of a loved one, the tragic death of a loved one. I could not let my brother experience that. I could not be the one he finds when he gets home from work dead on her bed. And so I pleaded. As I saw my spirit exiting, as I saw my own body below me, I said, no, 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 no. No, I've got therapy later. I can make it till therapy. I had an appointment at 2:00. And sometimes when you're in such a state of depression, all you need is one more thing to hang on to get you a little bit further until there's something else to be hopeful about. And I said, no, I'll stay. I can't do that to him. I can't do that to my family. I'll stay and I'll go to therapy. The reason that I say that one is a little bit more mystical is because what I experienced was a spirit leaving the body upon will. What is that? And are we allowed to leave whenever we want without even hurting ourselves? I don't know. But what I do know is that in that moment of being removed from my body, I understood the reality of death and it being so close, and that survival instinct or will or whatever you want to call it kicked in to bring me back down to earth and live. Those are some of my near-death experiences, part of my personal awakening journey. And I hope that this information sits with you. I hope there is something for you to learn here. I appreciate you listening. Next episode is going to lighten up. We're going into visions and intuition, so I hope to be with you then. I appreciate the support. Thanks for being present. I'll be with you all next time. Peace.